Hello and welcome to Chicanime. My name is Lauren, and today I am looking at a video that was suggested by Patreon member Aluminum Brain. So thank you to Aluminum Brain for suggesting this. This is 8 Greed King, the players that conquered the world, analyzing Overlord. I'm looking forward to this. I've really been enjoying my little supplementary dives into behind the scenes at Overlord, and other videos too. But Overlord is the one that's most recent. So thank you so much for suggesting this. I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to say. I know that other people have suggested more Annie News stuff. So if there's more specific videos for that you want me to look at, go ahead, tell me now. And I will add them to the list. Thanks again. And if you want to see these episodes early and you're watching this on YouTube, but you wanted to see this like a week early, then you can pop over to Patreon. That is where they are earlier. And now let's begin.
The 8 Kings of Avarice are legendary figures in the New World. To this date, these player characters had the biggest impact on history. Of course, the Great Tomb of Nazarick will eventually overtake them and rule this world with an iron but fair fist, ultimately turning the name of Eins Ol Gaun into an eternal legend. And all of this will be done in accordance to a grandiose plan executed over a time span of 10,000 years.
Oh, wow.
But as of yet, the
What?
legacy of the kings is still greater than that of Eins Ol Gaun, even after Splat, even after the rise and fall of the Demon Emperor. And this really puts things into perspective. And today we are going to take a closer look at basically everything we know about them. First and foremost, they were player characters, normal human-born beings, transported via unknown means into a new world ruled by dragons. A world where strength was everything and humanity was nothing. Reincarnated as, and thusly blessed with all the power of a level 100 player-built character. They arrived roughly 100 years after the 6 great gods first walked among men, and while they were also reincarnated into a world where the Dragon Lord still ruled undisputed, their starting position was very different. The 6 great gods likely had to fight from the very beginning. Humanity was already on the brink of extinction, and if they hadn't stepped in right now, our species would have died out right then and there. So from the very start they had to commit themselves fully to this cause, and this cause alone, figuring things out while they were happening. And ironically, after 100 years...
Were they all spawned in together, or did they do this separately, individually? Or over time? Are they going to explain that? They might explain that. They might have already explained it and I just missed it.
Only Surshana, the god of death, remained alive, who upheld the once more flickering flame of humanity. One undead, to shield the only nation of humans from hundreds if not thousands of dragon lords, and an unknown number of other powerful species and nations. Nations that were most likely stronger than the 6 great nations who fight for supremacy at the center of the continent in this day and age. So even with the power of a level 100 player, the task of saving humanity was demanding.
Yeah, that sounds
to defend
daunting.
That was productive enough to feed and supply an entire nation. And judging from geography alone, what would have been natural borders in a world where only humans lived might have been places where powerful demi-human and heteromorph nations were located. Let me illustrate what I mean.
That's cool.
Between the Kingdom and the Empire, the Azalesian Mountains are essentially a safe border. And because humans can't cross them easily, this mountain range gives the defenders a clear edge in any war. And also the dwarven population wasn't hostile either. But for the Theocracy, mountain ranges might have been a curse, a natural safe haven, where demi-human and heteromorphs could breed and prepare for raids into human territory.
I'm also kind of getting Warhammer vibes, just a little bit.
And if need be, make an escape by climbing the mountains like a goat, because goat people. We also know about a great forest in the southwest of the Theocracy, which is still home to an elven nation. Additionally, the desert, and the mountain chain surrounding it, might have been a host for giant sandworms from Groom, or other similar horrible and disgusting creatures.
Oh God, yeah, like, because a lot of times you think of mountains as safety, but like if you're surrounded by them and all of the things that live in the mountains want to kill you, you're in a death bowl, like essentially, all the time. Ugh. You know, makes sense that it's the slain theocracy that's there then, because if that's going to be the case, you know, religion is basically the only thing to turn to, I suppose, at that point.
I mean, look at him, he's clearly evil. Also,
Yes.
he could have been brimming with
Monster.
hostile sea dragons or the Lovecraftian deep ones. Now you might ask yourself why I'm telling you this in a video about the 8 Greed Kings. Well, my point is that the Theocracy was immediately exposed to all sorts of threats. It likely had to constantly fend off invaders, which only learned over time that the meek little humans refused to go the way of the Dodo, and that they indeed had the ability to fight back. I mean, just look at the northern border. The grey areas are controlled by demi-humans, or heteromorphs. And this is the side of the Theocracy that was less exposed to threats.
Oh, wow.
At least until Ainz established his kingdom. Can you imagine how bad this might have looked when Dragon Lords and other powerful demi-humans and heteromorphs ruled the rest of the map too? I mean, compared to the place where the flying city of the 8 Greed Kings appeared. They were just flung into the desert.
Okay.
And while there might be huge sandworms and other dangers to ground-based travelers, the overall bioproduction of any desert is abysmally low, and therefore it is likely that none of the great powers in the New World would have laid claim to it, simply because there's practically nothing in it worth defending. Additionally, and this likely made all the difference, the kings spawned together with their guild base.
Great. See, he did answer my question. I was asking, did they all show up together? They did. Great. Question asked and answered. Take a drink if you're playing the drinking game at home. I don't have one right now, but that's one of the rules. If I ask a question, then they answer it shortly thereafter. Drink up.
Intact. We know this because right now Platinum Dragonlord most likely resides in the abandoned base. And we know that he's in possession of their guild item. In the web novel he even landed to the leader of the 13 heroes in order to aid him or her in the fight against the evil deities, essentially turning the power of Yggdrasil against itself. So being reborn in their own familiar flying city, which was fortified over more than a decade against powerful level 100 raider groups, while still being just a guild base in Yggdrasil, the 8 kings had enough time to fully realize what has happened. That this is no game, where they are, who is dangerous, and what they should do about it. And remember, even a standard guild base had NPCs with a combined level of 700, and given
this is something that I'll head back in a second, but something I just thought of was there was a moment when Sheltir died and Ainz like liquefied a room of wealth to bring her back. Like, so revivify, essentially, whatever. You can bring someone back from the dead. But if any of the guild kings or whatever, if they died, would their friends be able to bring them back as well? Like, or if they die in the real, like, is their body, their human body, just absorbed into the game? That's something that I've been wondering about Ainz as well. Like, is his human body gone from where it was in the real world, wherever it was he was playing it? Like, what is the timeline? Like, is it happening within moments in the real world as it happens within years in Riestes? Like, that's something I've been wondering for a while. Like, and if he dies in game, would he wake up in the real world again, or is he just dead? And like, what would have happened like to these 8 Greed Kings, like if they died in game, or not in game, but if they died here as their player, or they just like, can the other players bring them back like they could an NPC? That's my long question.
Guild base had NPCs with a combined level of 700, and given more than a decade of questing and microtransactions, we can assume that the guild base of the kings was somewhat close to Nezaric's total power. Maybe
Okay.
a third, maybe even half. So let's just assume their strength was comparable to the first 7 floors of Nezaric, because the main fighting force of Nezaric is still located in the 8th floor. After all, this is an entire city we are talking about. And we know that back in Yggdrasil, guilds would have fought for control over major settlements. Additionally, Demiurge estimated that it would take him years to conquer the continent in its present state, and he's still unsure how much damage Nezaric would have suffered. Now imagine this continent was still home to all of the Dragon Lords and other powerful nations. Without a guild base, the 8 kings wouldn't have been able to establish absolute authority over anything, especially not in a relative short time frame. So this means that the 8 kings had a safe haven filled to the absolute brim with powerful items and loyal NPCs. And this is extremely important. While the 6 great gods had to fend for themselves, the 8 great kings had not only time, but powerful servants who could and would aid them with anything, from the day-to-day bureaucracy to scouting duties to the fields of economy, nation-building, civil engineering.
And they'd worked together for so long already, so it's like they already knew how to maintain safety and security. Okay.
Magic, and of course, the art of warfare. So my point is, the kings never had to be on their own. They already had a city-state of unrivaled power, located in an area no one of importance would monitor. From this strong position, from this blind spot, the 8 kings waged an all-out war for supremacy over the entire continent and possibly the entire world. We don't know who casted the first spell, but we know who casted the last. The 8 kings won. The supremacy of the Dragon Lords was broken, and they themselves were almost wiped out. But it is also worth mentioning that some dragons didn't participate in this apocalyptic war. The dragon councillors of the Arkland Council State remained neutral. And Deep Darkness Dragonlord is still holed up in his basement under the Forest of Top, playing by or with himself. So maybe, just maybe, the various dragons were organized in tribes, factions or families that all answer to a common ruler, who is speculated to be on par with a raid boss and Platinum Dragonlord's father. Still, this war most certainly was an epic spectacle that surpassed Splat on a daily basis. Since this time, the other side could fight back, and some of the kings even died. And with each reincarnation, they got a little bit weaker. Still, their own deaths were but a scratch compared to the end of the Dragon Lords.
So they reincarnate? The 8 kings die, and then... Okay, so if they die, I guess maybe he's saying that they can be brought back, but when they're brought back, they're not quite as strong as before. So maybe that's what would happen with... No, I don't know if Ainz would be able to even be brought back, because, like, everyone under him is weaker than him. So, like, I don't know if that would even work.
And this total defeat is a fate many other strong races shared. These powerful nations knew about the struggle for supremacy, or at least survival, and usually they fought to win. These nations, comprised of powerful species, were used to defend themselves and to challenge newcomers. And this way of thinking led straight to their downfall, as the 8 kings were far too strong to be fought. And maybe the Theocracy was also trapped in this mindset. I assume this because at some point Surshana fought the kings and lost his unlife to them. The Theocracy claims
they killed Death?
God did what he did in order to protect humanity from them. But the kings were apparently never dangerous to humans. On the contrary, after they broke the dragons and annihilated almost every powerful nations, weaker species, such as humans, could thrive in the now far less hostile world.
So, like, so Death could have not died, or the god of Death could have not died if he had just talked to them, perhaps?
I assume after the king's conquest came to an end, the average level of the new world was likely far lower than before the war. In this time of newfound peace, humanity witnessed a short period of rapid expansion. With the continent secured,
Okay.
the kings built sprawling cities and likely established a continental trade and communication network. And they and their minions also taught the humans of the New World how to use tier magic, truly establishing this new mana-based magic system as a weapon of humanity. I base most of this on something Fluder said about the message spell. Once a highly advanced nation was heavily reliant on magic, including this message spell, and thus was plunged.
Are this the Clacky Towers or whatever from Discworld? The Clackers? So what was they called?
Into chaos after this magic-based communication network was compromised in order to send out false messages. So basically robocalls. Together with the arrival of the evil deities, this nation fell, as did many other countries in this period. But during its prime, hundreds of years before Nazarick, it could have been a far cry of the worldwide state the kings had established. Similar to how Mir, Volantis and the other Valyrian colonies in Game of Thrones preserved a part of the culture of the Valyrian freehold after the Doom had claimed it, this magic-reliant nation might have been a far cry of the glorious days of the realm of the 8 kings. But with all enemies gone, all hostile dragon lords defeated, all nations subjugated, and Shoshana playing dead for good, they turned their attention inwards.
I did think for a second that he was gonna say that Shoshana's gonna come back, but no, Shoshana's dead.
In spite of all their newfound might and their ever-loyal NPCs and cities, they were just humans who were suddenly turned into Greek gods. And they apparently couldn't deal with all of this power, so they started to fight a brutal civil war. The true cause of this war is unknown, but it is assumed to be greed, hence the name Kings of Avarice. On its end, the kings were no more, leaving their items behind for Platinum Dragonlord to collect them. Over the course of 5 centuries, their cities would fall, their names would be forgotten, and the Theocracy would gain almost complete control over the history of man. And it is known that the nations of the 6 great gods didn't take kindly to the kings who killed off their last, somewhat living deity. I mean, the name alone is an insult. Despite defeating the last player of the Theocracy, these 8 were labeled as mere, greedy kings, ruled by base desires, while the 6 great gods pursued higher goals. But in spite of their downfall, one city still stands. It is still located in the Great Desert and supplied by an infinite amount of water raining down from the guild base. Home to guardians who keep it safe, it might still hold answers to what has happened in the war against the dragons. This city might be filled with the history of the kings, a second version of what has happened in this time of legend. A version that tells the tale of the other side. And according to Evil Eye, a nameless book of spells could also be found in this city. Maybe it is a wiki about magic spells.
That'd be awesome.
To Pero Ronchino's Monster Encyclopedia. We also know that the 13 heroes were allowed to enter the city and that they received a gift. Powerful weapons from Yggdrasil, meant to aid them in their battle against the evil spirits. Fluder Paradane was denied such a relic, and I sincerely hope that eventually this series will cast at least some light onto their story.
Oh, that would be so cool!
Clear answers what has happened in this time. But until this happens,
I feel like the reason that they would do that is it would just end up giving because Ainz would want to seek that out, right? For just getting the world items.
I guess we have to speculate and form theories, which will be the topic of my next 8 Greed Kings video. Until then, have a nice day. Over and out.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I can't pronounce this guy's username, so this is it. You should go and check it out if you can see that. Here, I'll make it big really quick, so that y'all can see his username. I'll try to make it big really quick. There it goes. There. Try and go and see what's up with that. His videos seem really cool. World-Schäärgocks Schächsaß? Shashak. I don't know. I could not tell you. I don't remember what that little symbol means. I used to know what that symbol at the end was, but no more. I've forgotten. That was interesting. And that would be cool to see if they would go. If they would go to that castle in order to, again, attempt potentially get those powerful items, or if you have people who are fighting against Ainz and crew would go and seek it out in order to, again, try and get something that can beat them. And the Sling Theocracy already knows that they have world items. They have weapons that can defeat some of these people because they took over the mind of Shaltir with one, right? So, like, and the Sling Theocracy would know about this castle, or like at least they would have the most likely to know about it. So if they send people to go to that area to get those items or to get the information to get hit, that could be interesting. Because like all I really want, it's like I want Ainz to win because I just do, but I want it to be hard won. You know, I want it to feel like there's a moment where he's actually like, oh, maybe not. Or it's like where it seems like he's not going to. I think that would be really cool. Because I know he does his very, very best not to speculate too much. Like he doesn't want to assume that there's nothing here that can kill him, which is great. But like, okay. But it might still, you know, but it's still very unlikely that he is going to lose. But if they can find some stuff that other players at his level would have had and used, if they have a base that has a similar amount of power to Nazarick available, that could be for an actual interesting battle. Because, I mean, ultimately it does seem that Ainz wants to rule the world benevolently. As much as possible with evil minions. But, you know, okay, that could be interesting. So thanks again, Aluminum Brain. This was interesting, and it has left me a lot to think about. So let me know what else I should look at, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.